I made my husband lasagna. Then overheard him planning to leave me after New Year's. I made lasagna for my husband and overheard him telling his mom he regretted marrying me. The lasagna that changed everything. I thought I was doing something sweet. My husband had been complaining about work all week, long hours, bad meetings, the usual. So I decided to surprise him with his favorite homemade lasagna. Something comforting. Something thoughtful. I left the office early, picked up fresh ingredients, and drove home smiling, excited to see the look on his face when he walked through the door and smelled it baking. But his car was already in the driveway. Odd. He's never home this early. I figured maybe he got off work early too. It was a couple weeks before Christmas, after all. People were taking time off. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could, planning to sneak into the kitchen and get the sauce started before he noticed. A little surprise. A small joy. One of those things married people do just to say, "I see you." But then I heard his voice. From the living room. Loud. Frustrated. I froze mid-step in the hallway when I heard him say my name. "She's just boring, Mom. Predictable. I regret marrying her." My stomach dropped. "I feel like I'm living with a roommate," he continued. "And honestly, she's a dead fish in bed." I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I stood there, clutching a grocery bag, listening to my husband tell his mother he regretted his entire life with me. And then came the dagger. "There's this woman at work," he said, almost dreamily. "She's fun. Spontaneous. She gets me. It's not physical, not yet. But emotionally? I haven't felt this alive in years. We're waiting until after New Year's. That's when I'm going to tell my wife I want a divorce." My knees buckled. A box of pasta fell from the bag and hit the floor with a dull thud. Silence. Then, "Mom, I gotta go." He came around the corner and saw me standing there. His face turned the color of wet clay. "What are you doing home?" he asked. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just looked at him, this man I'd built a life with, raised children with, shared a bed with for 12 years, and said quietly, "Is that really how you feel about me?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. So I asked again. "You regret marrying me?" He tried to talk, but I was already gone. He looked at me like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Only worse. Like he wasn't sorry he got caught, just that I had to be the one to hear it. "I didn't mean it like that," he said quickly. "It was venting. You know how I talk to my mom. We were just talking. About how you regret marrying me?" "I didn't say that." "You literally did." He opened his mouth again, but I cut him off. "No. Just stop." He reached for my arm. I stepped back. It was a small thing, that step, but it felt like a mile. "I made you lasagna," I whispered, more to myself than to him. He blinked, confused. "I left work early. I bought your favorite cheese. I was going to surprise you." He looked down, ashamed, but it wasn't enough. Nothing would be enough. "You know what the worst part is?" I asked, laughing bitterly. "You weren't even going to tell me until after New Year's. You were going to sit through Christmas, pretend everything was fine, open gifts with our kids, kiss me at midnight, and then what? Drop the bomb January 1st? He didn't respond. "Who is she?" I asked. "This woman who gets you." "What's her name?" "That's not important," he said. "Of course it is." He sighed. "Her name's Melissa." I closed my eyes. Melissa. The name meant nothing to me. But now it would haunt every conversation, every silent drive, every time he checked his phone. "You were waiting until after the holidays," I said slowly, "because you didn't want to ruin the kids' Christmas." He nodded. "I know it sounds terrible, but I wanted to keep the peace for them. I didn't want to blow up the family right before Christmas." "Oh, so noble," I said flatly. "You wanted to destroy our family with style." That hit him. He winced. But I wasn't done. "Let me make something very clear," I said, my voice shaking. "You already ruined Christmas. You just did it 2 weeks early." Then I turned, walked into the kitchen, and dumped the entire bag of groceries in the trash. The smell of crushed tomatoes and basil filled the air like a funeral. When I came back, he was still standing there, silent. "I'm taking the kids to my sister's," I said. "You'll have the house to yourself. Just like you've always wanted. Please don't do this." "You already did." Christmas lights and silent tears. I didn't cry in front of him. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I packed a small suitcase for each of the kids, pajamas, toothbrushes, their favorite stuffed animals, and texted my sister that we were coming over. I told her not to ask questions. The kids were confused, of course. "Why are we leaving?" my daughter asked. "We're just going to visit Aunt Laura for a few days," I said with a smile I didn't feel. "A little early holiday getaway." I could feel my husband watching me the entire time. But he didn't stop me. Didn't ask me to stay. Didn't apologize. Didn't say a word. The drive to my sister's felt endless. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. Christmas lights blurred outside the window, like cruel little stars blinking in mockery. I put the kids to bed early that night. And then I sat on the guest room floor, staring at the wall, trying to breathe through the weight crushing my chest. Was I really that boring? Was I so invisible that my husband could fall in love with someone else while still sleeping beside me every night? Had I missed every sign? Or had I just chosen not to see them? The next morning, I told my sister everything. She poured me coffee and listened without saying a word. When I finished, she asked the question that had been crawling through my own mind since I left the house. "Are you going to try to fix it?" I laughed. I think it startled her. Fix what? A man who planned to play happy family until the clock struck midnight and then disappear into the arms of another woman? She nodded slowly. I want you to think about what you want. Not just what he did. That stuck with me. Not just what he did, but what I wanted. And the terrifying truth? I didn't know anymore. I met her face to face. I wasn't planning on confronting her. Honestly, I thought I'd just go through the motions, file for divorce, protect the kids, move on. But fate had other plans. I ran into her at the pharmacy. Of all places. Melissa. She was holding a bag of vitamins, scrolling on her phone, standing in front of the same display I needed. I recognized her immediately. I'd seen a photo on his phone once. A group work picture. She had that kind of face, sharp, pretty, calculated. The kind of woman who knew exactly how she looked and how to use it. She didn't notice me at first. So I stood there. Watching. She laughed at something on her screen. Probably texting him. Then she looked up. Our eyes met. And I watched the color drain from her face like melting snow. "Oh," she said. "You must be his wife," I finished. A long pause. Then she had the audacity to say, "I didn't mean for this to happen." I stared at her. Really stared. Like I was trying to burn a hole through her carefully contoured face. "You didn't mean to fall in love with a married man? It just happened." We connected. Emotionally. Emotionally, I repeated. "That's your excuse?" She bit her lip. "He said you were unhappy. That your marriage was already over. That you were just staying together for the kids." I laughed. A cold, humorless sound. "Did he also say I made him lasagna the night I found out?" She blinked. I leaned in just a little. Enough to lower my voice but not my rage. "He was going to kiss me at midnight on New Year's, then leave the next day. Tell me that's not emotional manipulation." Tell me you didn't know you were helping him orchestrate a lie. She didn't answer. I didn't wait. Stay away from my children, I said. And enjoy the man who lies for sport. Just know, the version of him you fell for doesn't exist. Then I walked away. And for the first time in days, I felt just a little more like myself. Divorce is a business deal with a knife. I sat across from the lawyer, clutching my sweater like it was armor. He was calm. Professional. He explained everything, how the divorce would be filed, how custody could be arranged, what assets would be split. I just nodded, numb. There's something about dividing a life you built over a decade into paperwork and bullet points that feels inhuman. He wants shared custody, the lawyer said carefully. 50-50. Of course he does, I replied. He wants to play great dad without paying full child support. I wasn't trying to be bitter. Okay, maybe I was. But I'd watched this man plan his exit like it was a vacation. Now he wanted to act like we were business partners dismantling a project, not a family. Still, I agreed to the terms. Because I knew dragging it out would only hurt the kids. And me. And honestly, I wanted out. The longer I stayed tangled in his lies, the longer I felt like I was drowning. The first night the kid stayed at his new apartment, I sat on the couch alone and stared at the wall. It was too quiet. Too wrong. My daughter had cried when I dropped them off. My son asked if I'd be okay without them. I smiled and lied, of course. I'll eat ice cream and watch bad TV. They didn't need to see me break. But when I got home, I collapsed. Because divorce isn't just the death of a relationship. It's the death of routine. Of inside jokes. Of shared grocery lists and lazy Sundays and knowing which drawer the spoons are in. It's 1,000 tiny deaths that no one grieves but you. And then came the question. A friend asked me, over coffee a few weeks later. If he begged to come back, would you take him? I laughed so hard I nearly choked. Then I started crying. Not because I missed him. But because a part of me still wanted to. The letter that rebuilt me. It had been 6 months since the divorce was finalized. The paperwork was done. The lawyers had moved on. Even Melissa had faded into the background, like a bad dream you stop retelling. But healing? That was slower. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Children are resilient like that. They never asked why Daddy didn't live with us anymore. Maybe they knew. Maybe they just loved us both too much to say it out loud. Then one night, I found a letter. It was folded in my son's math notebook. He's only 10, but his handwriting was careful, like he wanted to get every word just right. Dear Mom. I know you're sad sometimes. I hear you cry when you think we're asleep. But I want you to know you're the best mom in the world. I'm glad we live with you. I don't care if Christmas is different now. I just want you to smile again. Love. Tyler. Asterisk. I cried harder than I had the night I heard my husband say he regretted marrying me. Because this was real love. Not the kind that fades when life gets hard. Not the kind that seeks excitement in someone else's arms. Not the kind that lies behind closed doors. This was steady. Quiet. Pure. That night, I didn't cry out of pain. I cried because I realized something. I hadn't lost everything. I'd lost someone who didn't value me. I'd lost a version of life that was already cracking. But I hadn't lost myself. In fact, I was just starting to find her again.